So the other day on Threads, I made a post and it went like this. You want people to support your underground art, but you do not support underground artists. You're getting what you're giving, which is nothing. And this was one of those posts that required critical thought, I guess, to kind of like wrap your head around it. I'm not trying to say you have to be super smart, but it's like, it's only 2 sentences, right? And it's less than 500 characters. So like, there's no way to fully interpret the entire meaning of the statement without me doing a video essay like we're doing now. And the other reason I have to do this right now is because, not that I have to, but people were upset again. And I've noticed that whenever you say something like this that might be true and that requires critical thought, instead of people engaging with it in kind of like a healthy discourse, they kind of just start attacking you. And so I got nasty comments, I got mean stuff, and I don't really want to address that, but I do want to talk about one of the most common rejections that I was seeing, though it was stated in very nasty ways. And it was that, no, we need fans. Like, I don't need to be a fan of people to get more fans, and like people should just be my fan. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you shouldn't have fans or that your goal shouldn't be to work to have fans. I actually never said that in my post, and I don't think that. And there's nothing about the content I make or the platform that I built or the brand that I've curated that would communicate that I don't think you should be trying to get fans out of like the common listener or out of lay people. But I do want to take this as an opportunity to talk about why that is an absolutely dog shit mentality if you want to actually make progress as a creative or as a musician. This idea that you're like too good to be a fan as a way of like actually building your brand, to be a fan of other creators, to be a fan of people who might be your competitors, to be engaging with your peers in a way that might actually help them grow. To be afraid of that or to be in opposition to that is like 100% the best way to make zero progress moving forward. Being a participant in underground art, being a fan of underground art, and kind of accepting that you are an underground artist is one of the easiest ways to build a fan base just moving forward, because for one, it's the easiest organic method. It's always been the easiest organic method to, use lateral relationships and to take advantage of the fact that you already have people that care about you, to engage with them, to offer them something valuable in return, especially if they are participating in your space, so that it kind of creates this like community feedback loop within your audience. The second point is that, and this is where it really gets weird for me, is that creatives with absolutely no motion at all actually believe they are too good for anything that isn't people just kissing their feet. So it's like, if people are not coming to me, finding me out of the blue and coming to worship me as the greatest artist since Michael Jackson or Prince, like, I don't want it. I'm too good to be a fan. I'm too good to support people. I'm too good to even think of competitors. I'm too good to consider ideas that I don't think originated out of my head. And it's like, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to help people with that. And the point of this channel moving forward is for me to use everything I know from my career and everything I've learned and everything I continue to learn on a daily basis to basically act like I am your AR. So whether you're an artist, whether you're an engineer, or whether you're a producer, like basically just, or any kind of creative, right? Using what I've learned, using what I know, and using all my skills to be your AR. As your AR, I can tell you that if you think like that, I can't help you. So you can continue to watch, you can continue to consume the content, but I want you to understand, if you think like that, nothing I teach you is going to work. Like, nothing I taught you before is going to work, and nothing today is going to work, and nothing moving forward is going to work. So that's very important for you to understand. And I don't necessarily think that I'm describing you, the person who's watching this video, but I do want to kind of describe the person that will be in opposition to thinking like that, and maybe kind of just discourage that kind of person from continuing to watch this video. So while that person continues to wait for their fucking fairy tale, which is never going to happen, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you how to build a huge fan base of people that fuck with you based on this idea. But first, we need to begin with the underground landscape itself, because for a long time I thought that it was bad to be underground. Like, that word used to sound like a slur, and there was someone that actually made a commentary of that, and we'll get to that in a second. I just worked so hard to escape it because that was my mindset. I was like, I don't want to be considered underground. I want to be considered something other than what underground was, but I never really thought about like what the opposite of underground actually was. And that was a huge problem, because I was working so hard to escape this thing that I didn't even understand. I was like, why am I trying to escape it? Maybe I don't understand what it really is. And so I went on to like win awards. I got my music on like pretty big networks. I actually gained like pretty nice critical acclaim for my music too, like in South Africa, in a bunch of different African nations. But I think the biggest amount of like accolade came from South Africa. I won like multiple awards at their like award shows, like album of the year, mixtape of the year, song of the year. We won like multiple platinum like certifications and stuff like that. I even made like tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I noticed that none of that made me feel, I'm just saying, like, maybe you've experienced that to this point and maybe it makes you feel like not underground anymore. But after experiencing all of that, I realized that like it literally didn't separate me from anybody. Like I was as underground as when I started. I had like maybe more connections in the underground and like I got to connect with way more underground artists, but I was not Nicki. I'm not a pop star, obviously, right? I'm not a pop star in any country, even though I have like critical acclaim in other countries and stuff like that. I even have pretty nice critical acclaim here in the United States, but like I'm not a pop star. I'm not Ariana. I'm not even like commercial or popular adjacent, right? Like not even close. And that's when I began to understand that the underground is actually the freaking majority. So that was my response when someone ended up asking. It was like, what does underground even mean? Because I hate that title and I can empathize with that. But my response was that it's basically just everything that's not popular or commercial, at least in my opinion, because I personally think that underground music should be revered and honored, since that literally is most of us. And anytime I say that, I'm like, imagine if we were more allied with each other. Imagine if we were more allied with each other, how much more we would gain, how much more people would grow, how much more art would proliferate, and how much more authentic and ethical it would be if we would just focus on that. So if you can change your mindset to thinking about that, because for as much as the underground is the majority, and it's like 80 to 90% of it, probably more if you want to be real, because how many people are like the popular commercial people we're talking about? Very small amount, whereas like everybody else is literally the rest of it, right? But for as many people are actually in that space, very few people understand that in order to grow in that space, you've got to engage with it. You've got to understand that it's not a bad thing in the first place. Like you can't hate the underground and be an underground artist. Like that's basically a non-starter, and hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, if it doesn't make sense, don't worry, because I will be explaining a little bit deeper on these AR concepts for every type of artist on my newsletter later this week. So please do go ahead and join, especially if you're a producer. You get a free kit, sound kit, a drum kit with a bunch of sounds from my placements and stuff like that. And then any creative who decides to join is going to get access to my private newsletter where I give you gems on stuff that I'm consulting for 6-figure and 7-figure creatives and musicians. So definitely check that out if you're interested on learning a little bit more about these deeper branding topics. I also talk a lot about engineering, audio mixing, because that's very helpful no matter what kind of creative you are in music, production, engineering, artistry, and things of that nature. But returning to the topic at hand, now that we understand what underground music is and underground art as a concept, and we understand that it is the majority, how does knowing this actually help us gain fans? So let me explain. Earlier this year, I read a book called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and it's by Dr. Yuval Noah Harari. And so he talks about quite a bit in that book. I can't even begin to give you like the actual thesis. It's a pretty long book and it's in depth. It's like history and anthropology from someone who's got like 3 PhDs. So it's really, really in depth. But this concept that he talked about that was really interesting was the trend of humanity from a more united kind of like culture to a culture of individualism. And so he has this fascinating quote that goes like this: anyone who has read a novel by Charles Dickens knows that the liberal regimes of the 19th century Europe gave priority to individual freedom, even if it meant throwing insolvent poor families in prison and giving orphans little choice but to join schools for pickpockets. Dr. Harari goes on to say that we would do better if we adopted instead the viewpoint of a cosmic spy satellite which scans millennia rather than centuries. From such a vantage point, it becomes crystal clear that history is moving relentlessly towards unity. What's interesting is that this quote happens maybe halfway through the book, and then the rest of it is an anthropological analysis on human history and culture as a means to demonstrate and prove our inevitable trend towards that unity. So here's the point of this section of the video, and I want to pose it to you as a genuine question, because we have to go back to what people are upset about this post in the first place. They're saying that I don't want to be a part of this unity that is underground music culture. I don't even want to accept it. It's a slur to me, and I definitely don't want to participate and offer energy to it. I don't want to offer service to it. I don't want to contribute value to it. So my question that you can consider rhetorically as someone who doesn't think like a complete and total brain dead idiot, but if you do think like that and you're still watching this video, here's my question to you non-rhetorically. Why would all of culture be making this trend, but then some musicians are fighting tooth and nail to hang on to the delusion that is their selfish and narcissistic individualism. Doesn't require an answer. I'm not gonna answer it. What I'm gonna say is no, period. Simple. There are no monoliths in music. There are none in art, generally speaking, but especially not in music. There is only the appearance of them. Michael Jackson looked like a monolith. Drake looks like a monolith. Nicki Minaj looks like a monolith. But I can assure you that there are millions of people, from the fan and layperson level to the partnership, management, agency level to the peer group level, where she's working with people, collaborating, whether it's laterally, upwards, or downwards. All of that makes the monolith that appears to be Nicki Minaj, and that's the same for anything that you could consider commercially successful or otherwise, and that happens at the underground level, which is what we're talking about. The way they curate it at that level is literally the way you curate it in the underground, but if you feel like you are too good to curate within the underground, then that is your problem. If you don't want to do it like the stars do it, then you're definitely never going to get anything that you think the stars have, which is like critical acclaim or just like any meaningful amounts of success on your music, which is people like giving a fuck about it, right? Like, it's fundamental. It is paramount to understand that that individualism is an illusion. Being a successful musician means becoming a functionally beneficial cell or organ of the entire body that is art. So that's how you think about it, or that's at least how I think about it. The entire art form of music, and you could look at art as a whole like this, or you can kind of like divvy it up into specific art forms. So for music specifically, I view it as just a body where you can be a cell, you can be an organism, you can be a whole organ, you can be, you know, the hair or something in it. But the way you do that is by supporting within the space, within the art. You teach within the space and art. You entertain, you inspire, you enrich, you child rear new talent. You help people come up. You don't just gatekeep and squash every person because you're jealous of seeing them build anything, right? A lot of people think it's just that entertainment. Entertainment is one aspect of it, and it's probably, in terms of weight, also the smallest, right? Supporting, teaching, inspiring, enriching, and child rearing are also very important, if not equally more important than just that entertainment aspect. And people get so locked into that, and now you can begin to understand why, out of all of those things, if you're only concerned with being this entertainer who gets attention, why that is very selfish, because you're ignoring everything that you need to contribute to the body of the art, which is supporting, teaching, inspiring, enriching, and child rearing, just to name a few, right? I didn't have like weeks to write this script, right? It was a pretty quick thing that happened with this post, and people getting mad about something that just required a little bit of critical thought to understand. Not talking to you, because that's definitely not you. It's just like, I try not to drag it, but it's like, on top of that, like just me as the person for a second, like, why are you attacking me? Like, I try not to like bring that into these videos, but just for a moment to kind of be tangential, it is hurtful. Like, I'm a human, and I'm saying this stuff to help my homies, like the people are gonna watch this video, and it's like, it is hurtful. But even me communicating that to you right now is like me just connecting with you as an artist. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm bigger than anybody. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm better than anybody, and I'm not trying to pretend like I'm this automaton that has no emotions. No, if it would hurt you, right? Like, if you think you don't want to post content because you don't want anyone to say your stuff is bad, or because you don't want anyone to detract, you know, your ideas or the kind of art that you put out, just understand that no matter who it is, it's always going to be hurtful, and you just learn to deal with it through engaging with the communities, through building camaraderie and community. Doing stuff like this is how stuff like that just becomes less hurtful over time, because you understand how the space actually works, and that's what's so cool. And it doesn't change for literally anybody I've ever worked with, big or smaller, or in my peer group. They all think like that if they're gaining success, right? So within this body of art, you can be a cell, you can be gut microbiota, you could be a whole organ, but you will be something. Because if you're not something within the body, but you're trying to get in the body, do you know what that makes you? If you know about anatomy and physiology and biology, you know what that makes you. That makes you an antibody. And if you are an antibody, the immune system of the body is going to do everything in its power. It is going to employ every organ, every cell, every microbiota it has to fucking kill you. Which is what's happening to these people who don't want to participate in the underground, or who think they're too good for the underground. They don't understand that that literally makes you an antibody in the body of art, and it is trying to eat you alive. Like, people do not understand that, and that's what's killing their career, and they don't even understand it. And it's sad. I want to laugh about it, but it's just fundamentally sad. So I'm really glad that I'm communicating this to you, fundamentally someone who doesn't think like that, but to teach you why it's dangerous to think like that and to teach you how to leverage against thinking like that. Because basically those are the people that, because they think like that and they necessarily have to exist and think like that, will allow you to create a space where it's in contrast to that, so people gravitate towards you. So there has to be people like that, because people like that create a magnetism away from them and towards you, the person who's going to create value, who's going to support, who's going to teach, and who's going to inspire, enrich, and child rear, on top of being a very valuable, very entertaining, and very talented act. So create the community first, then expand it into a type of culture that can be independent of that community. But the point is that no individual can do that. The only thing the individual can do is curate community. The culture can only begin to exist if there's already a community. So if you're not going to do that for yourself at the individual level and try to inject yourself into the greater culture by cultivating community, then you basically have to hope that a label is going to come in and sign you and do that for you, because that's literally what they do, right? They cultivate a community for you and then they use that to inject you into popular culture. That's literally the label's entire job, and they give you a loan to do that you must recoup before you start making money. Not a bad thing at all. And honestly, if you want to play for that, that's good, but you would still, ideally, if you were intelligent and wanted to leverage everything at your disposal, you'd want to grow in the underground and then leverage into a deal with a label, so that for one, you get a better deal, but for two, that you also increase the odds of getting a deal, because labels, like I said, they're giving you a loan. It's an investment for them. They're not going to just give you money off of talent. They never do that. They've never done that, and they will never do that moving forward, especially with the amount of money that's going to start pouring into music. All right, you've got to have something going for you, and you've got to have something you can give back to them if they're going to give you any money. But the thing is, once you learn to do this, you kind of begin to understand that a lot of times it's better for you to not sign that deal until you have a shit ton of leverage, and even then it's probably better for you to stay indie. And anyone who comes to that realization usually did so through this framework. So now we understand what underground means, and hopefully we know that it's not a slur. It's actually honorable to consider yourself a participant of the underground. And now we understand why unity in the underground will lead to its proliferation, as well as to the success of all of those who participate in said proliferation. But now we need to know how to cultivate that unity, and specifically we need to know how to cultivate that unity in a way that helps us grow our careers, our brands, our artistry. Now, I noticed that I kind of created the framework for doing this when I first started building my brand, not because someone told me this or because I had studied, but because it just made intuitive sense, right? I started to gain attention, like very small amounts of attention, definitely at first, for like making music and making content online. And so I thought in my head, okay, if I want to grow, these people have to be a part of a community that likes what I make, so that I kind of like live in their hearts with the value that I've given them, whether it's entertainment, inspiration, and or education. And I thought one of the best ways to, push the needle on that is to actually have conversations with them. Now, I can't text them. I can't pull up at your house and talk to you, even though I appreciate you more than life itself for listening to my music, watching my content, and purchasing my products. I promise you, you're right here. It's not my heart, it's just you. You got a little spot right there. It means everything to me. So I was thinking like, okay, how can I communicate that to these people so they know I value you for being here and I would love for you to stay? So I would read every DM and every comment, and then I would reply to them on every platform. I would then engage even deeper with some of the people that were already following me and supporting me, and I would go back to their stuff. If I noticed that one of them, I would literally stalk each person that followed me, supported me, commented or anything, and I would check them out. I'm like, okay, what kind of person is this? What kind of person is this? Oh, you make music? I would go in and check out their stuff. If it was dope, even if it wasn't dope, I would just support. I would drop a like. If it was really dope, or if it was someone I even wanted to work with, or just something that blew my mind, boom, I'm a follower, I'm a subscriber. I became fans of creatives inside of my audience, not trying to reach up and try to like suck someone's dick for a placement, or trying to like find all the like peers in my space that can help me build my brand up quicker. Like all of those things are intelligent. I mean, maybe don't, brown nose, ass kiss, and what is it called? Like dick ride super hard, but like it's not bad to want to like leverage upwards to build your brand and stuff like that. But my main focus really was just grassroots stuff, shaking hands, kissing babies, and just engaging with people on an organic level. And I noticed that with that mentality and with that mindset, it made me very comfortable to just be a fan fan of the music instead of always looking at it with this like commission breath mentality. It's something that producers do a lot. I wouldn't know how it works for a lot of other creatives, but it's something that producers do a lot. And so it's when you become a producer, everything you do becomes like a business move. You stop being a fan of music. When you listen to music, you're not enjoying it. You're studying it to see what you can learn or what you do better in your own production. You're listening to artists to see who you can get placements with. You are only supporting stuff that you've produced, and you're definitely not a fan of someone unless you think you can like place them or get something out of them at some point. There's a lot of that in music production, whether people are willing to admit it or not. But something that I've noticed is that by being, able to just engage with my audience, I had a little bit of a different mentality when it came to that than other people did. And so whereas other people were constantly pitching like placements and like new beats to all these artists, which I wouldn't necessarily say is a bad idea, I would just say that's not what I did. I've never done that, right? But I have a really solid catalog of good music that I've done with other artists. And that was by genuinely being a fan of people. So I've gotten to work with people like Dizzy 8, Matt Corman, and even Kyle Beats, not because I was a fanboy, not because I was, because I was a fan, but not a fanboy, like an overly obsessive person who's just trying to take advantage of them. And I definitely wasn't trying to leverage any of the connections. That just kind of happened because I was genuinely a fan of them. So the connection was organic. They kind of just reached out to me because I was genuinely supportive and engaged with what they were doing. Like every opportunity I've had with just those people I've named, but with every, artist or brand was basically in that way, because like people just fucked with me off of the vibe of seeing me like engage with the entire community. And that's what people are gonna fuck with more than this person who puts themselves up on a pedestal or like up on the Iron Throne on some Game of Thrones shit. Like no one really fucks with that much, to be real with you, right? And so I just fed off the creativity of other people the way people feed off of my creativity when I'm creating content or music. And so to do that even deeper, just now I playlist from my own audience. I'm not going out and trying to curate, Wonder Girl's beats or like Metro Boomin's beats from his albums and stuff like that. I think there's like a couple of those on my playlist, but like 99% of it is people from my own audience. And that playlist helps people grow their Spotifys. That playlist helps me continuously get streams, both of my playlists. That's just for me engaging with the community. I'm not really thinking about, oh, I need to be gaining fans from like the lay people community. It's like, no, like I continue to gain fans by engaging with the underground. There's millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people right here in the underground who will then help you gain fans. Like that's just the way like, tangential relationships work. So why focus so hard on trying to do something that's not working for you when you can literally just serve the community and serve the space, engage with it, communicate with it, and then get what you want back out of it like that. It's like, from my mindset, it seems like people don't want to put that effort in. It could even be something as simple as building a Discord or a newsletter where you're going to provide value, or at the very least provide a community where people can interact with each other. And a lot of people are not going to do that. And I'll tell you why. It's because they don't take any interest in other artists. They're only in this for a selfish reason. And it's like, it hurts to hear that if it's the truth, but that's probably the truth if this statement made them mad. You're in it for a selfish reason and you don't care. And that's fine. That's fine. But like, they need to understand that's the reason for your failure, which they never will. But if we understand that, we can leverage it against them. And that's the important thing. Because again, for as true as this statement is, and for as definitely as every culture is moving towards unity, the majority of people in the underground are never going to do this or even think like this. So the key to leveraging this for yourself is to just take interest of other artists, take interest of your peers, and take interest of artists that are smaller than you. If you actually have made progress to this point, you're in a very unique position where you can begin to curate an audience of people that are smaller than you by just giving a fuck what they have going on. So few people are willing to do that if you will just do that, I promise you, you will experience at least a 20x growth. I promise you, because basically no one is going to do it. And the thing is, if you cannot do that, the truth is you're not the artist you think you are. Because no successful professionals I have ever come across struggle with this even a little bit. It's actually one of their best natural traits. They are usually fans of smaller artists. They are usually offering ridiculous amounts of support for free to anyone who will ask them. If you can actually get in touch with them and communicate with them, that's the hard part, and that's what people don't understand. They'll like deify these people thinking they're hard to reach and that they won't give you anything. I promise you, motherfucker, motherfuckers be the most giving. It's just, you have to create that boundary because you're so giving that niggas will ask you for anything and you'll give them anything. So over time, people learn to create boundaries and kind of like these gradients that keep them away from people that are just gonna ask for whatever because they have no respect and they have no boundaries. But once you actually build relationships with these people, and a lot of people know that even I'm like that, I'll give you a lot, I'll offer you a lot of free stuff. It's just like, you got to get in touch with me. And once you burn that relationship with me, you're not going to get it back. So that's the other thing, is these connections are everything. These are going to be the people who are your fans forever. There are people that I responded to their comments or their DMs 4 or 5 years ago who they're literally still my fans. They're buying stuff. They've pulled up to the shows that I DJ in Houston at this point. When I started, I never thought I would be doing something like that. And now they're pulling up to my shows, bro. So if you want to make it work, just stop being selfishly interested. Like, whatever you've got to do to get rid of that trait. And I'm going to be doing another video talking about like mindset, and another one talking about like books that are really helpful for mindset. So we'll be talking a little bit more of kind of those soft skills that we can develop that are going to really help us with our artist development. But that right there, just kind of delete selfish interest from your character, in as far as it is malignant, because selfish interest is important for the progress of your career, but it's not going to help you build a community or a fan base or a culture around your art. I promise you it will not. So the key is to begin to be very interested in what artists are doing, and you can literally use your algorithm and social media to do this. Just start trying to tap in and find smaller artists and actually watch and consume their stuff, engage with it, comment, like it, bookmark it, and it will show the algorithm that you're interested in that. And it will literally begin to show you music from smaller artists. Like everyone knows, every scroll feed on every social media is a For You page automatically. You have to set it to be chronological. Otherwise, it's just gonna show you stuff based on what it thinks you're interested in. And then on top of that, it's gonna show you ads from smaller artists too. So you can literally find a bunch more people to just support, connect with, and have conversations with. You don't have to sell them anything. You don't have to use them to your advantage. Just become a genuine fan. That's all you need to do. Engage with them. If it's hard for you to do it first, fake caring about them. Fake it and you get good at what you do. What's called automaticity. It's a real psychological phenomena. Look it up. It will change your life. Fake it until it works. And it'll happen right around the time you start noticing the benefits of actually trying to care about other people's art. For one, your taste is going to improve because you're a lot more open to different types of things, even things that you don't necessarily feel like you're open to initially. Like opening yourself up to like contrary ideas or contrary experiences, regardless of how you initially feel about it, really improves your taste over time. And I'm just speaking from experience. And then the other benefit is that you're going to improve your empathy in general, and that is one of the best traits to have as an artist in general. Hopefully I don't have to communicate that to anyone who's a real artist. Empathy is a very valuable trait to have and to cultivate within yourself. And with that mindset, you'll be moving towards this unity that is happening in art, and you'll be moving in concert with art instead of being disordered with her, which you definitely don't want to be. It very much is a lively entity or energy to me, and you definitely do not want to be disordered with her. I'll just leave it at that. So if you take nothing else away from this video, please let it be that unity and community are the key to building your fan base. Now, admittedly, what I've presented to you is a bit of like a one-to-one approach, and that's what makes it so hard for people to wrap their head around. They're like, what, in this day of social media, I've got to go one-to-one? Yes, that's literally what people used to do at gas stations selling their CD. It's just like people have become like delusional because of the way society is now. But like, yes, it is one-to-one. It is a little bit difficult, but if you want to grow, you're going to do it. And it is the best way to start, but it's not the best place to get stuck. So once you understand what's going on this level, and once you begin to make this work, you're gonna wanna learn a one-to-many method. So if you're ready for that, click on the video appearing on your screen right now to learn my exact one-to-many method.